Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello and welcome, dear viewer, to another exciting, fascinating episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We've all been hammered by COVID-19. We're still reverberating under the initial hardships that have resulted from it. And there are some people out there in the economy who think that there's an alternative. There are better ways of approaching business. And one such person is my guest today, Mr. Ramogala. He's going to talk to us about the cooperative model and how it can serve as an alternative during the COVID era in terms of approaching our businesses. And let me not steal his thunder, and let me give him an opportunity to introduce himself. Would you care to tell us who you are and share a little bit about your background, sir?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mogobe. Let me thank you for having invited me to be in your series of shows that you are communicating to the nation about all aspects of our abilities as a nation to tackle different issues and challenges. My name is Goloswang Tsapo Ramogala. I was born 1962, December 25th, in a small village, Musu and Boteti.
Christmas Day. On Christmas Day.
Yes, yes. Although I don't think it has to do with anything, its blessings and the like, but yes, I would appreciate if that can be. I started my school right there in Musu, and then I finished my primary school there, and then I happened to pass well, and I was admitted in Makonel Community College, 1978. From 1 to Form 5, I was in Makonel until 82. Then I completed there. I went for a national service. By then it was called the Relevance Chapter. And then I went to Kalagadi in a small village called Dryhook. By then in Dryhook there wasn't anything. I was absolutely the only government property there, if I was, because my boots were government boots, my dust coat was a government property. Actually, that was that. It was not yet established as a real settlement per se. So it is there where I now met the cooperatives, 1983.
Okay.
I was everything servicing the community in all aspects of it. That is looking into their aspects of day to day, how do they make their ends meet. There wasn't a school, there wasn't a hotel, no clinic. And I had a book which was, I can't recall the author, but it was, its title was Where There Is No Doctor. I used to refer to it. When the mobile clinic comes, I was dispensing by then and that. So you could see I was a community builder.
You are the physical embodiment of the government there. You're doing everything government
immediately,
was doing.
Yes, I just accept that. But it was Trilos Chapter, temporary as it is today.
Yes.
But we were taking it seriously because there wasn't anything that government could do because there were no other facilities.
Let us start our conversation talking about cooperatives. What is your definition of a cooperative and why are they so important? What is so special about cooperatives?
Thank you very much. Cooperatives, by definition, it is an association of persons who agree to come together in an effort to tackle their common economic need and agree to manage their association in a more democratic way, whereby each of them is an equal, and also each of them must contribute towards the well-being of that, which is, in the language of cooperatives, we call it patronage, member patronage.
What initially attracted you to cooperatives? What sparked your interest?
My interest was sparked by the fact that cooperatives are people themselves. It is embodied within the people. It is this embodiment of it within the fabric of the social structure that made me to get attracted to it. When I was in Draiuk, if I may recall you, those people had a borehole just by the border, which they were a syndicate on it. They would contribute towards the fuel of the small kabuta generator that they would put fuel, and then they will water their cattle. And this, to me, I saw a cooperation at the highest level, which touches their mainstream, the actual thing that they want, because the livestock was their livelihood. And they agreed that as long as we can pull our resources together, we can always get this. So this made me to say, if we can become human beings and a little bit ignore what the world is built of and become human beings, at times we can survive. Even in any difficulty, we can survive. Because God has given us the different talents, different abilities, and as such, if we are a pool of persons who agree on those commonalities, that whatever talent or whatever idea you have, you can share it with us, each of us would contribute such an idea, and there won't be a problem that cannot be solved.
Are you, in a sense, alluding to the spirit of Boto when you talk about just being simple, going back to ourselves?
Very much. If even today, if we could come back to that, basic, very basic, to become Boto, we may not have other terminologies that forces us to become human. That is enough definition, and it's legal, and it's also spiritual and every otherwise.
Yeah, well, and your involvement in cooperatives at the beginning, how did it start?
My involvement just started there. There was, by then, cooperatives were very popular in Botswana, 1983, because cooperatives by nature, they started in 1884 during the Industrial Revolution in Europe, where the workers had no time to go to the shops. They are in the industry. When they come from there, the shops are closed and the like. And these guys, they were called, they were in the village of Rochdale in England. They said, we must have our own shop, which will work according to our needs. You remember in that definition, I said their common need. That their common need was that when we knock off from the industries, we find the shops are closed. We must have our shop that we control, which will serve our need as per our requirement. So the Rochdale pioneers in 1884, they formed the first consumer shop, which is the modern retail store. Such that when they come from there, at least they will find an open one which will serve them as per their requirement.
Is it just a coincidence that this happened a year before the Berlin Conference, or just a year or two before the Berlin Conference, which is 1885, which decided on the borders for African countries?
Yeah, like you say, this one, it was more domestic there. That one you are talking about was the foreign policy, where now they were scrambling all out there, even for Africa. And those who were back there, they also found the difficulty of having a share within the industry as it was revolutionizing. That was the time of mass production of goods and services. And therefore, yes, it could be because people were now looking at the market for these goods. That if we so produce in these masses, where will the remainder of the goods go? Probably that's why today we are putting in this We were influenced by their patterns of putting on dresses and suits and everything and any other. Yes, I can say probably that was.
Let's go back to independence. When did Botswana first embrace the idea of cooperatives as a country?
Botswana, in their own way of doing business on day-to-day basis, they had their version of what later on connotated into cooperatives. We call them motelo, we call them in other languages motelo or mbizi in the other languages that side, where whenever you have something that you want to do, you would either maybe brew a little bit of some beer and then kill a goat and call others that, please come and help me here. After we finish this thing, we can now feast. That's how we're doing it. If you want to drill a well, there was no machinery. You would just call others, come and help me. I think there will be water here. They will come and try to do in a group form. Hunting was done the same. Gathering was done the same. Gathering of fruits or gathering of wood, like you know, our old women, they were doing it in groups so that they can go. And so, you know, this aspect of doing together was within our society. Therefore, when the cooperative spirit came, it was now an embodiment of merchandising. Now, things were coming in and out as goods and services. We are saying, how can we get these goods in a better way? Me alone, I can't do it. Probably if we can pool our resources together, we are able to do this. For instance, as early as 1964, in Botswana, we started our first cooperative society, which was a shop. Today, it is still there. It is called Swaneng Cooperative Society, which
that was
is
the first
in
one.
Soroe. That was the very first in the register of the cooperative.
And it's still running.
It is still running because we haven't liquidated it. So this is how it all came. What was the need there? The need was to secure the goods, that is foodstuffs, sugar, salt, knives, clothing. And that's how they said, we need to have our own shop. And therefore, they pulled their resources together and they built their own shop.
One might ask, is it really still relevant for Botswana? Is it really, because you're saying that in the midst of COVID, it's something that we should consider. So please help us understand the relevance and tie it up with COVID.
Thank you very much. You know, COVID has come like any evil. It has given us something out of it that we have taken a leaf from. COVID had showed us that it is not that person, that man, who would take care of your needs. It is you. You should be prepared to work smartly as to how you connect into the mainstream, the supply chain that supply you. You could remember the first lockdown, when we got into our homes, a lot of us, those who were workers, had money. We got locked up there with our money because we couldn't go out. The money was useless. Even if going out, because we don't have those which are specifically to serve us, they are for everybody. You may go there and find the goods are gone. Or when you walk just a few meters, they close the doors because they don't know you. But if you are a member of that shop, like we saw with petrol, those were members of those filling stations. Even when they tell us the fuel is short, now you will find that some people will still come because those are maybe the owners or they have contractual agreement with them some way. So when we have no control over the supply chain, we had to suffer. Therefore, it is now more relevant for us to wake up to the call that we are responsible and accountable for our well-being.
So in terms of cooperatives, during this lockdown, during these lockdowns and during COVID. What have they done, or what specific actions did they take that demonstrate the advantageous position that they were in?
Like, I haven't gone on a chronological order of how they evolved, but suffice to say, those which are still there, they did what really cooperatives ought to have done. We have the types of cooperatives which are known as savings and credit cooperatives. That is where the people are to pool their money, make a pool of money, they borrow from there, and then they repay. And as this cycle goes, the pool grows, and grows. So if my eyes serves me well, there is one building here within the CBD which is owned by such cooperative society.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know.
The Zambezi Towers, it is one floor, I take, it is floor 5, if I guess, is owned by a cooperative society and is operating from there. All its members, they get their loans from there, they repay, they save their money there. The last time it was audited, it has a net book value of over 65 million. And I think that, I'm saying net book
value, yes.
Having taken care of all other factors. So those kind of cooperatives, they were taking care of their members. They made sure that because they were not catered for by the food rations that were supposed to be given, they had to give their members vouchers. Vouchers to access at least that which can take them, because they didn't know how long it's going to take.
Nobody knew.
Yes. So they said, at least if our members are not qualifying in the food basket, then we should take care of them. And this is the number one responsibility of a cooperative society, to take care of its members.
You spoke eloquently about the supply chain of goods and services in a market economy. Can you help the viewer understand really how cooperatives help with that? And then in addressing that, also deal with the negative news we've heard about some cooperatives being closed down due to mismanagement.
Thank you. If you can allow me to just drift a little bit back chronologically. In 1964, when we started this, the need was so high because there were no obvious supply of sugar in here, no easy supply of any other commodity you can talk about, because people needed those commodities and nobody was willing to supply them. And as such, they had to have their own control of that supply chain. Cooperatives by then, all the villages, they didn't have much of the shops. It was either one shop there or the other in another village, but there wasn't. So with that mushrooming of the need to have your own facility to supply you, they grew and they had their own union, which was called the Botswana Cooperative Union, which was a wholesaler. It was operated, the plot now today is Trans-Africa.
Yes, yes.
That plot was the cooperative union, a wholesaler, which was having an import and export license, so that it can source goods for its members, which are the shops around the country, to bring them nearer to them. It is that time when now their supply chain, you can see there was somebody who would have that to go and buy from either Durban, Joburg, Cape Town, or Zimbabwe, to come and redistribute. So they had their own supply chain. That's why we had such cooperatives booming in Maitengwe, in Gweta, in Mau, in Khansi, in Good Hope, and all the like. So they were controlling the supply chain. With the advent of now more people coming in to invest in our economy, as it was now booming during the 80s, the late 80s and 90s, now we saw a lot of merchants coming in, coming with other forms of building up this kind of businesses. And they came with more entrepreneurial skills and the zeal to want to grow. Whereas with us, cooperatives, like I said, is an association of persons. It was more influenced on by the social fabric than the commercial fabric. So the pace at which it was moving was not as when our brothers from Asia and elsewhere came, they moved with. So that's when even the government wanted to open up, liberalizing the economy, and said, now we are abolishing the price control. You can buy from any shop as low as it's lower than the other, and the competitive aspect of it will give you an advantage. By so doing, these shops, mind you, for the cooperatives, they were managed by the people themselves. And you know very well that when we took independence, there were less people who went to school further than the level probably of Form 5. Yeah. So a majority of them in the management boards were such kind of people. So they couldn't see the competition coming. When these guys came, they lowered their prices, and they were so enticed that, no, I would rather buy in a lower price than to patronize yours, because this is building on your capital. Despite that, because if you remember,
people were not so minded. They were just wanted the cheaper price. They were not focusing on, look, I'm an investor here. Let me spend money where I invest.
That entrepreneurial education was lacking. Just as much as we lost our leather dresses and went for these clothes, and they came with them. But our leather was durable, more durable than this cloth. But we can't blame them here. That's how it evolves in a society. You would think there is this idiom which I was taught by one of my teachers at primary, said, charity leads enchantment to the view.
Charity leads enchantment to the view. What does it mean?
Meaning that things viewed from a distance, they mostly look more attractive than when they are in reality. At primary, that's when he taught me that. So a lot of us, we think so. When we look at things at that distance, we think they are better off. Even today, when we look across the border here, we think things are better than we do here. Whereas when you come, sit down, and look at how we practice our way of day-to-day living, from here you don't worry to walk out of this and drive home.
The main objective for us is, local investment and economic recovery.
Yes.
Those are the two pillars that we're looking for. Can you just simplify it for the viewer and make it very clear how cooperatives will do that for us?
It is as simple as this. Even at the Garden of Eden, God told us that we will have to live out of our sweat.
The sweat of our brows, yes.
And it is here today, 2021 years after the death of Christ, that we still have to live out of our sweat. We have opened our borders as it was dictated by the world economy. But it doesn't mean those people, we should leave our life unto their hands. It is incumbent upon us to sit down, plan, and execute our plans as they will have to make us survive. We have resources. All these shops that are in here, it's us buying from our own money. The same money we could buy from our own shops. If that shop makes this Asian brother rich, the same money will make us rich if it is our shop. So it is now or never that we have to now accept to hold each other in terms of pulling our little, what we think is little, resources to make all that we are requiring. If I can give you an example today, a ton of rice from Dar es Salaam by rail to here,
to Gaborone,
just to Gaborone here, a ton of rice is just around 1,700 700 pula, the rail charge. If that you divide it by 1,000, ton means 1,000, it means it's 1 pula 70. 1 pula 70 per kg. And then, okay, how much did you buy a kg of that very rice that you put it? Even if you can say we bought it at 10 pula, put 1 pula 70 into that, it's still around 11 pula, 12 pula. Okay, put your margin now of any amount now. Put 10 pula on that 13 pula, 26 pula a kg. Who wouldn't see it cheap here? A rise of that much.
Whereas it costs how much? Roughly. I mean, I need to be able to compare in my mind.
I may not be.
But it's a lot more than that figure.
It's just, you can't. More so that today is the 1st of April 2021, when every other variable within the living cost
is going up,
has been adjusted. Your guess is good as mine that it is roughly over 30 pula. And if you sell it at that much, you can make more profit. So what I'm saying is, why don't we put our monies together? We always claim we have little money. I'm telling you, in Setswana we say,
yes, our former President Mogobe used to like saying that a lot.
This is the slogan for cooperatives. Indeed, if we pull this, I'm telling you, all these businesses are sustained by us. Crying as we cry that we don't have money. It's very unfortunate that we don't want to enterprise. We don't want to become the owners of the businesses. We want to be the consumers of them. So for us to pool our resources in any sector here, I don't even say select any sector, be it transport, we can have our own control our transport, be it beef marketing, we can do it. We did it anyway. The cooperatives were pooling their resources. You bring 2 of yours, 3 of mine, 5 of his, pull them together, put them on the rail. They go to Lobate. From there they come. The money with it. So I am saying, in the advent of COVID, let's come to our senses, not to blame anybody who, if at all that person is making profit, it's his desirous margin that he puts there. Let's have our own and put our own margin that will sustain us.
Yes, that's very, very interesting. But looking around the world, is there a model or a country or even a company or cooperative which you can use as an example for the success that you wish for Botswana?
Cooperatives, they are worldwide, and they are very much popular, even in the US, even in the United States of America today. With the economic crunch of 2008, the only sector that survived, which never got affected by that crunch, was the cooperative.
In the US?
In the US. They call them credit unions. They survived it because they were running their own money. Nobody was pestering them. Because, you know, when you are controlling your own resources, you know how much to adjust, how much profit you desire. Do you desire the profit in the form of money coming or the profit in the form of satisfaction? Because we can desire to say, suppose we had a filling station here, our own filling station, and prices are going up like they are going, and we are saying they have been increased by 1 pula. We are not forced to increase by 1 pula if it's ours for members. If everybody who is...
So it's not a government mandate?
If he gets his money, he gets his money in percentages, not in tebes.
Oh, I see what you mean. The government, Caesar can still get his card.
He still get his card.
Render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean you have to impoverish yourself.
You are not
in the process.
cheating him, yes. Yeah. If it is a 5%, he will take a 5% of what but my people will not be suffering to that magnitude. This is what we are saying. So our people don't have any control. This city transport could be controlled by these people. the commuters in the form of a cooperative. And they would not even have so many of the small minibuses. They may even put more bigger buses which would take them in numbers and less on the roads. And they will get to work earlier, and that will be the efficiency they want.
Okay, you gave credit unions as an example. Can you think of other examples?
If you go to Israel, actually I should confess, not any single continent doesn't have cooperatives. Israel, they are working using cooperatives.
They call them kibbutz or
They
something.
call them kibbutz.
Kibbutz, yes. I've been to some of
Nyerere
them.
was calling them the ujamaa
Jamaa is a system, yes.
villages that people should work in. Ujamaa, the Swahili jamaa means my brother, sort of. Jamaa. So he was talking of the Ubuntu that you were talking about. That let's stay in that Ubuntu and be the carer of your brother.
And what did you say about the Israeli model? How successful
Israel
is it?
model, all the settlements of Israel, their production system is using the cooperative model. Even if they don't call it the cooperative, it is the cooperative setup that they produce in their own areas, and the marketing of their produce is in a form of a cooperative that you can't toil with your tomatoes where there will be a bigger truck to come and pick from your small place. You don't have to toil to say, where am I going to take this cabbage to? There should be one formula. We talk to, let's pick Egypt. Egypt is the best in housing cooperatives today.
Oh, really?
The best. The whole world. Egypt.
What is their competitive advantage?
Their competitive advantage is that the people on their own, they cannot afford to raise capital faster as individual enough to get the houses like that. The same housing cooperation model that we are using here, it is the cooperative model of housing that Egypt is using. The government has even now agreed, they give them a chunk of land, they allocate land, and they build the houses in a cooperative way, and it is
working.
It's working.
But our BHC is not perceived as working. Why is that?
This is a government arm. I'm a government officer. It's a government arm. It has its own dynamics. You know, with government going into business, there is this notion of the workers who have legitimate expectation of working until they retire. As such, they don't exert much of their effort. And again, in government, thinking outside the box at times is not as easy as such.
Too much bureaucracy.
Exactly. Even if you can think of doing it, you have to abide by the command of the owner of the business,
which is restrictive.
Which is the government. And
so
you can see how government reaches its decision by debating, going back and forth, and consensus. Yes.
I want us to talk about cooperatives in terms of what, suppose there's a young entrepreneur there who's saying, what you are saying makes a lot of sense. What is the first thing that they can do to set up a cooperative? What specific action steps can they be undertaking?
Our young people should first understand what cooperatives are. If I were to borrow the model of mathematics, the Venn diagrams, we have 3 circles. The other one is the economic, the other one is social, the other one is political. Where they intersect, it is only a cooperative model that can satisfy the 3.
Let me just show the viewer. This is the diagram we're talking about.
Yes. You see, the economic part of it, people are self-actualizing. They want to drive their self to a level. That's why we form companies, we go into tendering, that is the economic part of it. And then you are profit motivated. You strive for profit by any means. I have to make it like that. There is that individualistic tendency of wanting to go alone. That is the economic part of it. The higher you are, the better. That's why we have the ranking of our billionaires, that top 20, top 30, and that, like that. That's how we do it. And it is the power of money that you say, the more I have money, the more power I have. And therefore, this is the survival of whoever is fit in the
fittest, yes.
This
is what Darwin was talking about.
That is Darwin. Okay. So that's the economic part of it. The political part of it is power. To control. Control through the government, management, through the relationships, dominate others and the like, all that, and the legal framework, because you want to control the rest. But the social aspect has more elements, which is now having the selfless. Now I'm coming to the youth. They must be selfless. Don't think of your own. Think of the other person, that we can come together. You must be compassionate. You must have a belongingness attitude, that this other person I'm coming in together in this business is going to be, I'm going to be in solidarity with his state. Because definitely we have different backgrounds, we have economic difficulties, we face this difficulty. You must know that it's going to be controlled in a democratic manner. And it has to have a humane face first. The human. You don't look
mentioned at the beginning.
Yes, you don't look at this business as a business to generate money. You look at it as a human that can pick me to a level. And therefore, there has to be equity in your mind. That I'm doing this for us.
So, yeah.
So the youth must, that should come into their mind first, that I am a caretaker of my brother, and he will also
my
be...
My brother's keeper, yes.
Exactly. And once they come in the aspect of the cooperative model, that's when they can do that equity, fairness, respect for each other, and honesty. Honesty, because a lot of our people, they mismanage where they have been entrusted with people's needs. So that's where I can call them. If they can come with this attitude towards cooperatives, the cooperative is the only way that combines the political part, because we have this election of members. You don't become a board member because you are elected full-time. Somebody say, I want Mr. Mogobe to be in the board. And then, irrespective that you have so much of, you have put 20 puller, he has put 10 puller. Even if we have the minimum of 10, you can put more because you are in solidarity with those who don't have. I think you...
No, I understand, I'm following.
Yeah. So it is the same. Supposing you are, let's take example of poultry. You have houses of poultry, houses which are 5. I have 2 that side. You can't fill them all, the 5. You go up to 3 or 4. Fully I can put into mine full 2 and put them all. I should be able to say, can't I stock in the other poultry house? You will charge me whatever minimum, but we will meet the market demand.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying cooperatives are the only ones that combine all 3. Exactly. The political, the social, and the individual.
And the economic.
Economic, which is driven by the individual.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it is this that when you have a cooperative, it will give you the power. If you go to Kenya today, you can remember the past 2 elections, there were so much about them. But on the ground, it was nothing. Because today, the economy is run by cooperatives. And the economy,
I've heard that.
The
How
economy,
did they pull it off? Yes.
The economy is in their hands. Whether politicians are fighting there or not, it's neither here nor there on them. Life goes on. They have this transaction that we do, which is now orange money, whatever. They have it as M-Pesa. And this they transact. without even talking to the government. And
is it true they've made banks irrelevant?
Even here, Standard Bank has refused to, is no more taking savings from the cooperatives. Instruction came from Europe that we can't be keeping people's money. The same people there, they clear the loans that people get from here. Mind you, these cooperatives that are savings and credit, they are at a very minimum interest rate on their loans. If I have 100,000 in Standard Bank and I'm a member here, they can clear it. If the interest there was 14% or whatever prime plus, with here they can even go below prime, because it is not the actual money that we are looking. It is the satisfaction and the convenience that I will get from my money.
So why don't we go to Kenya to benchmark and then replicate what they've done here in Botswana?
We have more support from the International Cooperative Alliance, which is our seat in the United Nations, and it has all its arms through the ILO, which is the training arm and the labor relations arm of the cooperatives in Geneva. So literally to go to Kenya, yes, it's our brothers, we can go to them. The whole literature and support is just within our doorsteps. It's a question of us here trying to have a paradigm shift. We should have a paradigm shift of knowing that even these financial institutions, we can run them. We used to have
Didn't we used to have a bank called Botswana
Cooperative
Bank? What happened to it?
You are coming to it. It is this that if we had time, I could have given you a step-by-step how our cooperatives came. Their graph went and went so sharp. But in economics, any graph that goes sharp, it will drop the same symmetrically.
What goes up must come down.
It must come down, and it will come in the same pattern that it went there. So literally, during the 80s, when the diamonds were now booming and everything, we had everything and we have money. Even the government had money enough to dispense to a lot of us. Some people got it through the FAP, through the ALDA, through
SIDA and so on.
The SIDA is coming yesterday. You see, a lot of money people are given that. Even these planters, when they are asked today to plant in rows, the government is not just asking what is not, he has given them. It's only that they didn't care. By then, there was a dispensation from the Ministry of Finance by then, through the PDSF fund, Public Debt Service Fund. Public Debt Service Fund. It was channeled through the Cooperative Bank for it to service the public debt. And that public debt was the cooperative. If you go to Tonota, you'll find the structures, the steel structures which are there built and the like. You get to Maitengo, you'll find them. You get to Good Hope, you'll still find those. You get to Molepule here, you'll find those. Where did they get money to do that? It was through the Public Service Debt Fund.
So it is doable.
So it's doable. It's only our, like I told you, it's only this dynamics that played it.
All right.
The cooperative bank was liquidated because of this cycle here.
The political.
Because the NDB by then was a little bit struggling. As a government, having put my shares, I had more shares in this cooperative. So I have my bank here. I can't leave my bank to die and leave that. Several times by then, Remohai, he told the cooperators in their annual general meetings that, can you inject more capital into your
own bank?
Your own bank. And they couldn't heed him. They couldn't. When he had problems with his own bank as a government, it was logical enough for him to pull that capital and inject it to his bank. Even
to the detriment of the cooperative bank.
You know, as a government has to justify its existence. It has to. Otherwise, it would mean anything in politics. Okay. So the cooperative bank was there, and it can be there today, provided we are able or willing to do what? To inject more capital.
Let's talk specifically about industrial development. Obviously, we have in place the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that is in place. How can we position ourselves and take advantage of the AFTA, the Africa Free Trade Agreement, with the objective of achieving industrial development, with the objective of doing something about the value chain and promoting manufacturing in Botswana?
You see, any industrialization has to be driven by the need and also the availability or endowment of the natural resources that are there. Firstly, we should look around ourselves. What is it that we are endowed in, which the government has given us in abundance, that we can now say we have a competitive edge over country X, Y, Z. That's where we could say, if we start industrializing, we should start with those that we have endowment on them. I know if I say this, somebody will say, yes, we have diamonds, yes, we have cattle, yes, why can't we therefore do the value chain of those in order for us to industrialize? Cattle, the cattle that we have, they are just in abundance, and the way we breed them or we produce them, everybody has one there and two and three, and you see, why can't we build our industrialization within the mainstream of this cattle? Not only meat. If you go to Maasai, there is a tribe called Maasai in East Africa.
Yes, I know them.
They live with their cattle. In the morning, they have a technique that they source the blood, mix with milk, they do that. They eat, while it's still alive. When it's dead, again, the meat, they eat the meat. But with us here, a lot of our cattle out there, they have milk. Yes, we can have a debate on the size or the liters that each of these can do. Supposing each of them gives me 2 liters in the evening, and in the morning it gives me another 2 liters. In 10 days is how much? It's exactly 40 liters. In 30 days, it's 120 liters. The same cow that has no milk production capacity, 120 liters at 1 pula, I mean at 10 pula liter, it's 1,200. The person who is looking after it, I'm compelled to pay him whatever amount. Then I can pay him using that same money, not using my salary. This is how the industrialization with what you have. First,
we also have indigenous plants.
From
we also have human resources.
Have abundance of salt. We can do a lot of research on production of livestock feed in one way or the other, because calcium, it makes the bones of animals to be strong. And you know, there is quite a lot of it. We have these acacia trees that they have nutritional value, that if you produce these very acacia trees, they have nutritional value that if you take them and get a machine that can just, you know, grind, and then I'm telling you, you can make miracles.
All right.
So that is how we can industrialize. I have just summed it that we should look at that. Diamonds, you know what they are doing in Israel, what they are doing in Mumbai, what they are doing in Switzerland. So
I need to do the same here.
That's all.
They need to do the same thing here.
Yeah. And many others that I may not have touched.
We've talked about citizen economic empowerment through economics of cooperation. Do you want to add anything more to that?
Yes, Mr. Mogobe. You know, there is this belief that the government will always provide. And I don't know for how long are we going to burden a government with this. Whatever government that we may put, change this or put any other, if we still have this attitude of that the government will provide, we will not go anywhere. Therefore, the empowerment of our people should be derived from their participation. They must be willing to participate. This is where now, let's just draw a little bit. 2008, we had the regime that was led by Rekam. And he came with poverty eradication, had it on it together with the present president. If you were today to ask, what impact has it made? That poverty eradication revolution, as one of my brothers talks about. Very little impact. I'm not saying nothing has, little. You know, efficiency is measured by the ratio between the input and the output.
So the input is huge, but the outcome, the output is minimal.
Therefore, it's not efficient. So people have machines. I can pick any village. They were given machines. If I get there, I get 10 machines. 10 machines, sewing machines. And align them in the room of this. It's an industry on its own. So the empowerment of our people should be derived from their willingness to take up this that the government is availing to them. So if today the uniform, we want them to make uniform, they can't because they say, no, I cannot, I'm not given a tender. Even if you can give him a tender, he will not be able to produce to the capacity that you want, because they are thinking that they have the right to be given that. You see, so our empowerment here
is then the danger is the entitlement mentality.
Exactly, that entitlement mentality has killed the whole thing. Even if you come with money, you put it here, it goes like that. For instance, if you look at our informal sector around here, at your spare time you look at, you Google the SEWA, www.sew.com, Self-Employed Women of India. When I got there in Ahmedabad, 1991, I found there is no building which is taller than it here. It was owned by these street informal sector traders. And for that matter, them is women. Today, we were last in Rwanda on the 18th of October, just was the elections here. When the debate of our elections, final elections here, the presidential elections, I was in Rwanda. I was there. We were with the Sewa women. They have advanced to a level that they are producing, they are even now exporting all those that is produced by the small and informally. So literally, we have to have our people willing to pool their resources. During the lockdown, where we were now required to register our customers and to take temperatures and everything, I just said what we could do for these people at the station there. They can't afford each of them to have a thermometer. It is totally stretching their
budget.
The same person who is passing through your table is going to pass through mine. Why can't we own a common thermometer here?
Yeah.
A cooperative thermometer.
That is a basic concept.
Basic. To them it will work, because if this one, you look at the taxis, they have a marshal who registers, this taxi came first, this one came first. They give him puller each time. They never quarrel that my taxi is the one which has to be loaded now before yours. So cooperation.
Let's push the conversation further.
Yes.
Growth points, let's go on the positive side.
Yes.
Growth points and linkages in the local economy.
Yes.
Where are those growth points? Where are those linkages?
The growth points and linkages, these you would find them in the transformation strategy of cooperatives. The cooperative department under the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, they have the cooperative transformation strategy that is also having that growth point. We are saying Botswana have come up to having something. Let's talk to our fellow Botswana. Let's not have this PhD syndrome. Let's talk to them that,
pull
guys,
him down or pull her down syndrome. Yeah.
Can we link with you guys and also find a niche in what we are doing here? For instance, if you are a trader, you can link that shop which is in Mupipi with supply, the supply chain. So we want to source from you to link these other people with their brothers. Today we have, I'm here with in Mogobe. I think it's Motswana. And this name, I know, I had a teacher who taught me, a lady teacher taught me, was with the same name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 1978, she was in Cornell. And she was my class teacher. So, you see, we are saying, let's link with each other. Those who have, let them invest in the in us. The same money that I'm buying here and generate money and accuse an Asian with.
It's coming from my pocket.
You know, why don't it get? Why don't you, the haves, don't trust the don't haves? Whereas the don't haves are the ones who are making others millionaires. This is my thinking. So we should link the haves and the have-not and create a trust that there is no mentality of entitlement here. This person, he had to sweat, he toiled to generate this money. He wants it also to multiply. It's not because Mogobe Motswana, therefore his money cannot be returned. And that's the attitude we have. Even borrowing at times, we don't even want to repay because it's you. But if it is our brother from the other ocean, they know very well. Even in your coffin, they will come and say, let me see if it's him who is dead. You claim he's dead. They will say, no.
I want to see for myself.
Let me see. But because with us, the social aspect, you would say, he will tell you, no, I'm burying my brother today. The other day, no, my uncle of my uncle. You listen to him, and that's all. And this is exactly what has impacted on the cooperative business sector, the entrepreneurial aspect of it. It was more of a social than economic.
All right. Let's talk about publicity and market penetration by cooperatives. How are they perceived and how is the market penetration there?
It is this notion, Mogobe, that we have left it to the market to decide. They are the custodians of this philosophy who must by any means be made able to publicize this aspect of saying, people, the power is in your hands. So there isn't much today that Mogobe might be knowing about cooperatives and how they can do. For example, if I tell you, Mr. Mogobe,
maybe because there are not enough of you, there are not enough people.
Yes, there might be not enough, but
there's not enough Ramogalas out there to talk about it.
Today we don't need Boramogala there. We have this Boramogala Babanti.
Yes.
We have the,
yes.
Do we need the Boramogala in the human?
I'm afraid so.
We still need them. Maybe I'm too harsh, but I'm telling you, today we are better off to communicate what we have than the previous time.
Before. Yes.
We don't even rely on the government media per se.
No, we don't need to.
We don't need to. So literally the publicity of cooperatives, I think, is not enough. Our people only know about the history, which even that history there, it's not well documented. It's ill documented, and everybody say cooperatives are those things, cooperatives are those things. If I can tell you today, drive through here A1, from there Palapi, you take that route to Warapa through, and then you go through Makalamabit. The animals you will see on the road,
unbelievable.
You won't believe it. The further you go there, per kg of that meat is lesser. If today I were to have money and get to that area and say I'm buying animals at 22, 23, 24 pula per kg, I will be the best buyer to them. But it's me and you who knows how much kg is here of a piece of meat. Far more than 40.
All right. Now let's go a little bit.
So profitability is
there. You just need to do what you're doing. Yes. All right. Political economy of cooperatives through principles and values. Political economy, are we going academic there? It sounds like an academic phraseology.
It may sound academic like that. Like I have shown here. The intersection between the social and the politics that play within the cooperative. It's me who came with this idea. It's me who has more cattle that are going through this. It's me who came with the idea of us doing this and that. These are the politics that at times are let to play in that. At times, apart from that, cooperatives become so strong that even the actual social politics, they become threatened. An example is with Nyerere. There is an area called the Kilimanjaro region.
Yes.
That's where they have a lot of coffee within the place around the Kilimanjaro. Those guys were selling their coffee to Europe, and they were using cooperatives. Whether Nyerere was there or not, whether Nyerere is fighting Amini or not, they were selling their coffee. And they were powerful. And Nyerere, his political power was shrinking, because political power and economic power, the two, they are symbiotic. And at times, the economic power is even more strong than the political power.
Yes.
So they were more powerful than the political. So cooperatives, for them to become powerful, again, they are a threat to the politics. Because people will say, we don't need this government. We can thrive on our own. And to say we don't need a government, what does it mean? It means you have absolutely you are not relevant.
So what happened in Kilimanjaro area?
In Kilimanjaro, they were able to thrive even after that depression, after the war with Amin. You know, Tanzania was not at any point ready to fight Amin. But the way Amin was becoming a nuisance, for lack of better word, he said, no, I can't let this happen in the East African community. Let me just take this man head on. And then he took anything little, he fought him. Fortunately, he took him out. That's how Museveni came in, isn't it?
Yes. It was originally Obote came back, and then after Obote came Museveni, yes.
Yes, Museveni. The last one of 87 is 86
Museveni,
is Museveni.
And he's been there since.
Yeah. So the government was having nothing by then. And the individuals were having muscle. So they were almost to dictate the terms.
Yes.
But by then, Nyerere was using a socialistic government tendencies. So he would not, swallow that pride of somebody being powerful than him. He closed those cooperatives.
Oh no! I hope
no, I'm telling you, he closed them. He later on realized, and then he let them after he got resuscitated.
I hope they recovered.
They did. Coffee is just like diamond.
Speaking of that economy, Tanzania was booming under Magufuli. How are the cooperatives doing? You
know, I'm telling you, I haven't been to Tanzania for some time now, but I'm following them through these gadgets. Magufuli, like Mahathir Mohamad, somewhere in Asia, Malaysia, he just looked through the window and saw that, yes, it's better out there, but isn't there anything here before I go out that I can solicit and try to improve myself with? And that's exactly what Magufuli did.
And in a short space of 5-6 years, the place
because with political power and you hold the economy like this, the social aspect is nothing. They follow suit. And this is what Magufuli did. He was controlling these two. And once he controlled these two, the companies which were making a lot of money that they can't even pay tax of government,
stopped all that.
Stopped that. He was controlling Air Tanzania. He bought new jets. He could build roads without loans. So what I'm saying
because
here,
the money was properly controlled.
Yes.
There was zero corruption.
Exactly. The political will, and he also got to control this. But there was a hygiene, like my brother always said.
I mean Professor
Lumumba. There was this hygiene of not taking this money from the people and squandering it, but taking it and developing the people.
Okay. This is a conversation that can go on forever, Mr. Ramogala. Apparently, time is not on our side.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the show where you get to ask me a question, and then we will wrap up thereafter.
Yes. Mr. Mogobe.
Yes, sir.
I would want to know, to what extent would Botswana be able to take it upon themselves that there is nothing coming from government? What do you think should be done? for them to realize that the government, yes, is there, but it doesn't owe us anything.
I think it will require a paradigm shift. The truth is that, you know, like Abraham Lincoln said, is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. Yes. That is the ideal form of government, that it's us.
Yes.
But the government does not take away individual responsibility. The government should not take away your financial responsibility. You are your own soul. I like the poem that Nelson Mandela says influenced him in when he was in jail. It's called Invictus, and it's got a part where it says, "I'm the captain of my soul and the master of my fate," or vice versa, words to that effect.
Exactly that,
but the point is that we need to embrace that notion, that it's upon us, and we should even consider our culture. Our culture as believes in the spirit of Ipelege. And this is something that our first president talked about, Seretse Khama. He said, Ipelege, not this Dipapata type of Ipelege. The original Ipelege, where he said, self-reliance is one of the pillars.
Yes.
I think we need to go back to those pillars. And indeed, I think with the younger generation, they are becoming to realize that entrepreneurship is the route to go. That is why in this show we talk about, you know, empowerment, we talk about inspiration, we talk about energizing one another, as well as enthusing one another. We need to realize that we are our own saviors.
Yes.
We are the ones that we are praying for. If we are praying for help from God, God will only help us through ourselves, through our actions. So I think that's what it will take, a paradigm shift, going back to our roots. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Now, as we conclude, I want you to look at that camera, sir, Mr. Ramogala, and say a few words, parting words, words of encouragement, words of inspiration, something to leave the viewer with.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mogobe, for having me here, at least to talk to my fellow countrymen. It is my honest belief that we should not think of starting big. The little that we are able to do, we should start with it and master it. Immediately we can master it, we are able to grow. And once we grow, we will be now able to be competitive in that particular aspect. For instance, if we look at livestock rearing, every Botswana takes it simple that he can do it. And that is what I'm saying, starting small like that. Even when now we talk of entrepreneurship, we are not talking of you becoming big like you see Mogobe, you see Redada and others. You start small and master that. Even in the field of plowing, 1 hectare, if you can master 1 hectare and make an output from that one, a maximum output out of it, then we can say you can increase 2, 3, 2, and then 10 hectares. But if you can't manage to maximize out of 1 hectare, then we can't expect, even if we... So we should not look at government to give us money in terms of SIDA. Yes, we are entitled to that. They should give us SIDA and the like. But I'm telling you, SIDA money is not a panacea if we are not able to master what we can do. Again, we cannot all be entrepreneurs, but we can contribute to that through the value and the supply chain.
Thank you very much. Now, how do the viewers who may want to carry this conversation get in touch with you? Are you accessible on social media? And if so, can you share your contacts?
At the moment, I am a servant. A servant is subject to his master. And therefore, I am not, even if I speak like this, like any servant, I might be taken to task that you didn't seek permission to say this and that. But like I say, I'm not yet independent. I'm not running anything of my own. I'm still in the office until probably next year. Thus, people can just only get me in the WhatsApp That's when probably
What's the contact you shared?
which is my number, which is a Mascom number of 71 333 199. 71 333 199. Otherwise, be blessed.
Thank you very much indeed. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you very much.